shtf vehicles. I could wax poetic about this subject forever. I gotta say, Fury Road came out a few years ago, and it restored my faith in art. So I think there's different levels of SHTF. If you take my circumstance, if a hurricane hits here because Shaf's mom didn't pray hard enough, and the gas pumps don't pump gas, you see the needles on these things just slowly but surely all going down to empty. Back a few years ago, after Irma hit, I actually had that trouble with my people. There was no gas because there was no electricity. There was no electricity because there was no gas. And there were no cars on the road because there was no gas. And you'd have fuel lines for gasoline. The one thing that was interesting was diesel would still be available, or there'd be no diesel, but there'd be gasoline. If we're talking true apocalyptic scenarios, fuel has a life to it, especially gasoline, anything gasoline. Diesel seems to hold up better. I would say the modern diesel, like your ultra low sulfur vehicles, their fuel pumps and injectors are far too delicate. The older diesels, there's very few of those around anymore. I'm thinking like a 1984 Ford 6.9. Those trucks actually have a hard time because those fuel systems were built to run on like a thicker mix of diesel, not ultra low sulfur. The diesel that we're pumping now in the United States is so clean that it doesn't have as much lubricity as what old diesels require. They need it to be like a slippery oil. But you can take like, say this 99 Beetle right here. It has a mechanical fuel pump, mechanical injectors, but it has computer controlled timing. But I don't know of any vehicles that have that system really to scale civilian wise. The military's Hummer, which is now obsolete, had the GM 6.5, which instead of having the electric fuel pump, like what the civilian ones had, they actually have a mechanical fuel pump, but they're still turbocharged and everything else. You are correct. Now, just sticking that as an aside, wheeled, motorized locomotion is just... I don't think it's really doable in a long apocalyptic run. The thought of, you take The Walking Dead, when they're able to just get in vehicles and drive. After 6 months, you ain't getting into shit. The fuel always needs to be fresh. You'll have little pockets of weirdos like me that may have gas on hand that has fuel stable, but those supplies are limited. You're only getting so many miles out of those things. So, transportation-wise, man, you're gonna resort to animals. I think go back to wagons. It's what militaries end up doing, like at the tail end. With like at the end of World War II. I don't remember where it was or what general said it, but they knew they had the Germans when they noticed their artillery was once again being pulled by horses. So you are correct about one thing, though. Superchargers and turbochargers, the way they are in the Mad Max movies, is remarkably unrealistic, and you would have it'd be a waste of the effort and material. The thing about any sort of power adder, whether it's a supercharger, turbocharger, or nitrous, those systems add oxygen to the engine. So you add more oxygen, and it's very important that you add the correct amount of fuel, and then it's very important that spark changes too, so the flash of when that cylinder fires happens at the right time. If it happens at the wrong time, you're going to launch that engine. If you go down to like a drag racing event where they have just everything maxed out, you'll see the results of when timing is off or when the fuel mix is off. A lean engine is a hot engine, and a hot engine is taking a beating. So yeah, you want SHTF. Look at what the vehicles that are being run in Africa right now. A Hilux Technical, that kind of shit. Old Toyota Camrys. Bonnie Mommy's Kia Sedona is actually pretty cool, and so long as the timing belt's been done, you take like an early 2000s Kia. Those things are pretty badass. But there's very limited part support to keep these vehicles running, and there's things that break on them that can't be replaced. We're getting to where less and less we can put a cylinder head on an engine. So something like a head gasket fails, the whole vehicle sometimes now is trashed because we can't get the parts for it. So yeah, SHTF vehicles, it's a fun mental exercise, but unfortunately isn't realistic. We can think that we'd have it made in the shade and be able to be just some sort of a biker gang roaming, but things like tanks and helicopters and everything else require so much support, and civilian vehicles require so much support that you're going to see it'll just grind to a halt, and then there's no food, and then people turn on each other, and have a nice day. I give true SHTF less than 2 months in a highly populated area. But that's another topic. Right. It's your Johnny Sunshine message of the day. Catch y'all later.